The question here says, which of the following could be the sum of three consecutive integers? Three consecutive integers. Anyway, I always like to explain whenever I see some of these terms here that might confuse people. So whenever you hear the word consecutive, this is like an English term, but it might be confusing sometimes. So let me give you an example. An example of three consecutive integers. Three consecutive integers. So whenever you hear the word consecutive, that is numbers that follow themselves, just the way they are, natural numbers, the way they are being written. So examples of three consecutive integers are like you have 1, 2, 3. So they are consecutive. Another example is, so this is one example. Another example is -4, -3, -2. So you can see they are consecutive. There is no integer between -4 and -3, and no integer between -3 and -2. But when you say something like 2, 4, 6, now there is something missing here and there's something missing here. For the mere fact that the difference between 2 and 4 and 6 are the same doesn't mean that you can say that the integers here are consecutive. So that's why this one does not pass the test. So for it to be consecutive, then they have to be this, except if it said consecutive even integers. Now if it says even integers, then that's when you can say this is going to be pass the test. But when you hear something is consecutive integers simply means the gap between any of those numbers you're going to be choosing, there should be none of the family missing there. Alright, now that we know what consecutive means, let's go ahead and then solve the question. So it says, which of the following could be the sum of three consecutive integers? Now since we do not know where to start from, we can't pick 1, 2, 3 or 4, whatever it is, but we know that consecutive integers, what is peculiar to them is that for each of them, that is if this is 1, then the next one, when you add 1 to this previous one, you obtain the next consecutive integer, and then the third one, when you add 1 to the one before, you have the succeeding one. The same thing happens here. When you add 1 to this, you obtain the next consecutive integer. When you add 1 to this, you obtain the next consecutive integer. Now that is what is peculiar to three consecutive to consecutive integers. So now to solve the question, since I'm told to find the sum of three consecutive integers, then I'm going to assume that my consecutive integers has to be x plus 1 and then x plus 2, which is valid, because if the starting point is going to be x, since I'm just choosing an arbitrary number, so if the starting point is going to be x, that implies the next one has to be obtained by adding 1 to the previous one, as I've just shown here. So when you add 1 to this one, you obtain the next one. When you add 1 to x plus 1, you obtain the next one. So now I have some three consecutive integers that I'm going to use to answer this question. So it says, which of the following that we have here could be the sum of the three consecutive integers? That is, when I add these three consecutive integers, what will I get? You have x plus 1 plus x plus 2. Now this is just going to give you x plus x is going to give you 3x, then plus 1 plus 2 is going to give you 3. So what's common here? You observe 3 is common, so this is going to be 3 into x plus 1. So something you observe here is, since x is an integer, then x plus 1 has to be another integer. That is, x plus 1 must be a whole number. So you have 3 times a whole number, then that implies that the number that we have here, that is, this number must be a multiple of 3. The reason why it's a multiple of 3 is because you can see that 3 is multiplying this integer here. 3 times anything definitely must be a multiple of 3. So the question says, which of the following could be the sum of three consecutive integers? That is, which of these could be this 3 times x plus 1. So what it simply means is, which of the options we are given here, which of them could be a multiple of 3? which could be a multiple of 3. That is, when you divide them by 3, you would not have a remainder. So you can see 29 divided by 3, you will definitely have a remainder. And how did I know this? So a very quick way to know multiples of 3 is 9 plus 2 is 11. 11 is not divisible by 3. So similarly, 46 divided by 3 is not you're going to have a remainder. 57 divided by 3, you would not have a remainder, because 57 divided by 3 is going to give you 27. Another quick way to check is 7 plus 5, that's 12, and 12 is divisible by 3. So 9 plus 2 is 11. 11 is not divisible by 3. 1 plus 0 is 1, which is not divisible by 3. So the only option that satisfies this condition is C. So that completes the problem. Thanks for watching.